not be televised.
Welcome everybody to this second episode, the Rejected Stone podcast. We are pleased to bring you once again another conversation, another chance to dialogue, and another chance to check in with where things are, where folks are, and how people are dealing with. We have a lot of topics tonight to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But how people are dealing with some of the things that have been appearing in your local newspaper and on the news. This is a Rejected Stone podcast. We're going to do it right now.
All right. Yeah. And I am Dr. Jarvis Watson, and you have been blessed to have opening by Dr. Zebulon Maletsky. And we are really going to delve into some things that I think where the conversation is missing, not just from the classroom or within the boardroom, but also from the barbershops and the beauty shops out there, and really talk about some things that are really pertinent to, I would say, our existence and our survival out here in these streets, so as they say. We just came off of a great conversation with Trusted Voices of the Community, which is a Suffolk County initiative that is supported by this State of Black Long Island and Urban League. Really talking about centering equity in a new normal, whatever that's going to look like for us. And I mean us, meaning underrepresented folk, and sometimes in some aspects underserved individuals. But we had about 55 people on for the first time. Dr. Zebulon wanted to be one of those 55. But yes, what it's going to be is a series of conversations throughout the next few months regarding anything from like health, mental health, physical health, LGBTQ experiences, domestic violence, indigenous folk, how are all these different groups being affected by COVID-19, but also like how can we come together as a community to really address these things collectively, and when the lift comes off of us being socially distanced, how do we make sure that we are really coming together and sitting at the table and strategizing and putting some things forth. So really just glad to be on there with my brother here, but also just using our voices, our minds to really get stuff to the people. And like I said, thank God for this video and audio recording ability to do what we do. So, yeah.
Yeah, well put. I think we've been talking so much back and forth in anticipation of this chance to really just sit down and have a chance to evaluate really what has been like just a storm of the community is dealing with so many kinds of storms, for lack of a better word, just a storm of information, of facts, of struggles that are taking place on the landscape. And there is trouble in the land. There's been, besides some of the issues that we had a chance to dialogue about in our first episode, now things have really moved very quickly into some newer pastures, new territories that are quite concerning on some levels. And then also, as we'll hear, there are, silver linings and reasons to hope.
Yeah.
So we, we really welcome the chance, as you put it, Dr. Watson, Brother Jarvis.
Yeah, man. All the same.
As you put it, I think really well, just to, in the barbershops, where folks are talking. And so in our travels and in our discussions with various, groups, I felt really privileged to be a part of that discussion, the Trusted Voices. It's quite a to carry, to be a trusted voice, as you all were, as the presenters and as the facilitators of this really elemental discussion that's ongoing. It's information rich, and it was I think satisfying for a lot of the folks who were on that call and conversation.
Appreciate that, man. And big shout out to Rita Fernandez and Teresa Sanders, of Sobey, as well as the Chief Diversity Officer of Suffolk County, the first African American, the first at all. So just to be on that call with them was amazing, but also being behind the scenes with them and a number of other people who really contributed is it's like, man, this thing is it's bigger than you and I. It's bigger than us. So it's just really good to see. Hopefully more people come on to the next call. In the same way, hopefully people join on in this podcast as well, because this is just an extension or connection to what we are as a community, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And we want to remind folks to don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah,
our numbers are growing, and a lot of people are excited about some of the stuff that's on the way. Right. And so we already have, appreciate folks who have been showing encouragement, who've been encouraging of these dialogues, and we'll be having number of them on the show very soon.
Yeah,
is in the works. So. I got to back way up. I forgot to introduce myself too, which is where's my manners. I'm realizing I have to. There's so much on our minds. There's so much at stake. But But I am Zebulon Maletsky. I'm a assistant professor of Africana Studies at Stony Brook University, and but really just speaking, today from the heart. And like a lot of people, trying to find that balance between work, family, home. I know, Doc, we're going to talk about some of those issues as we go too, because that is a continuation of our, I think, as you said, is our just as important to our survival, no doubt. Gardening, taking time with family, that remains a thread that has been running through this pandemic experience, which has been sustaining and a reason again to hope.
Yeah, man. Even as you were talking, just hearing the stuff in the background, just like the music that's playing in the streets, and it's the kind of connection we really want to have with our listeners. That we're not disconnected from, like we're not in some like ivory tower. We're not disconnected from the people. We're right here, and where we are, whether it be like the suburbs of Long Island or the bricks of Brooklyn, we're here for the people. So so we'll bring in, like I said, our inside of our house to the people, but at the same time we'd love to hear from people to see what we could do to better talk about their story. So
yeah. And that being said, I will get some padding in here and get some
that was divine though. That was right on time, brother. I was like, look,
it always is. These streets of Brooklyn never let you down. Shout out to my man with the bass. Came through.
Cause I was like, wait a minute. I was listening. I was like, what is that?
That's Bushwick.
That's like your theme music. Oh, he was just like, if you
nah,
can find out who the artist was, that'd have been kind of cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll Shazam it later. And but yeah, no, Bushwick, respect, love. Where I rest my dome, as they say.
Yeah.
This is where I'm not from here, but I live here. My wife's family's from here, so it's just that's it. You heard it.
Man.
The sounds in the streets.
Yes, I am too a transplant from outside of here, but like I said, New York just has a way of grabbing you up. If you're about New York will be about you. So yeah, man. So let's get started with some of the things we need to talk about today. So
yeah. So I know one thing that's obviously been on our minds and has been on the minds of the nation's conscience, I think, and the conscience of a nation. This Ahmaud Arbery case, I know that, we've been watching this closely. We had a long discussion about whether to record last week because of it.
Yeah.
It was, we needed time to process and take it in, as everyone has been doing. And I know there's been a concern in the land about what are the facts. There's been a lot of confusion around this case.
Yeah.
Doc, Jarvis, I know you've been watching it very closely, and I know you're going to be talking about that today, and just all the issues that go along with this well, just to back it up at the most simplest level, this massive injustice.
Yeah.
Whatever the details are, this massive injustice, which came to a lot of us late.
Yeah.
To a lot of us late. It took place in February.
Right? Yeah. Just think about how much anguish that the parents had to go through of like dealing with it initially, but also thinking about like now that you're bringing it out on like Eyewitness News and Channel 7, all these other outlets, now you have to kind of relive that. You know, and then we'll kind of talk about the things that happened in between that I think people need to know as far as like where to go find your facts, but also just kind of share some facts in regards to like the play-by-play. And then to really kind of delve into a little bit more about what this means for us as a communities of color, communities of Black and Latino, for those who live with police officers, but also who live in fear of police officers, and I think vice versa. Police officers who live in fear of those who live in either their communities or surrounding communities. You know, so it's like this mix of feelings. I think I'm glad we took some time to kind of take a step back and let it process before we got on this microphone today. And that's pretty much what we want to do today. Just kind of see how are we processing, but moving forward, how should our brothers and sisters be processing this as well?
Yeah. No, it is, and I think to just come back to just we talked last week about are you be safe.
Yeah.
We ended last week talking about be safe, and how people say it to one another and what it can mean and what it means, and then at that time, even though this incident had already happened, I wasn't quite on my radar. I think we talked about it briefly.
Yeah,
we were kind of almost, but not on the nation's radar yet either.
You had brought it up, I think, even before we got on the podcast, and you were talking about it. I was like, I thought you were talking. It's funny. It's not funny, like, but I thought you were talking about another incident that happened in like Brooklyn somewhere.
Okay. That's true. We did mention it. We knew about it.
And it was just like, wait a minute, this is something different. And it kind of took me back to the time that we had a lot of these police brutality type of cases with like Michael Brown and the brother from Staten Island. I'm not sure why his name escaped me right now. But
right, yeah, of course.
Sandra Bland kind of things, and it was like another Philando Castile. Just really trying to figure out like, wait, I just found out about this person. You have another situation that's coming up, and I feel like that was happening at a time that you had shared with me, and I was like, okay, all right, here we go again. So
yeah, no, it did. It hit like that. It's like another. Right, and as we're coming into, even though it happened in February, as we're on the edge of summer, we're coming into these. It's feeling like that again, and then you find out there's also other cases ongoing that are getting. And then people, right just before folks start to even begin to know the name Ahmaud Arbery, there's others saying, oh, don't forget about this person, don't forget about that person, including a sister whose name we need to, shout out. And so we have to dump, we'll edit this part and dot those, but.
Yeah, but Eric Gardner. That was an Eric Gardner.
Eric Gardner, of course.
Yeah. But this is also an aspect, I think, even more with Trayvon Martin. I think this is...
That's what reminded. You're right.
Sparks these national movements or these national, images of, like, either having your hands up, don't shoot, putting the hoodies on, And now I think you had talked about the fact that now people are out there jogging and running.
Yeah. Run with Mod.
2.23 miles. Yeah. Run with Ahmaud, and please, if you don't know, go check any source that has to do with that so you can understand what people are doing and kind of come around in the neighborhood. But once again, it's like, I don't know, it's like becoming, not saying trendy, but it's like these trends are happening with our African-American males or our Latino males, and especially our African-American women that, and I say males because it has somebody as young as 12 years old being part of something like that. So it's like, Man, this is
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It becomes a familiar and yet on such an unwelcome jolt.
yeah,
And every time it feels like another jolt of electricity or of just um, it hits hard.
yeah,
And so I mean, if nothing else, I guess it lets us know, what some of our forebears went through um, in these times, calling this a modern day lynching.
yeah.
Isn't it interesting? I was thinking too, before I even had a chance to think about it, that an anti-lynching bill was passed and law was passed by the Congress last year, and now a lot of people questioned, well, wasn't this 100 years too late? Well, apparently not. So there's so much going on.
Mm,
There is just a lot happening, and that's I haven't heard that being talked about too much, but I know that um, I know you did a lot of. I had a chance to really dig into this case and check it out
yeah, yeah,
with
yeah.
some of the facts. And so, what are people saying? What are some of the issues at hand? And help us parse it out. Because we see what we see on the news, but then in terms of passing on in the grapevine and trying to
Right.
really get the right information. What are you seeing, and how's it impacting the case?
I think there's a mystery of why it took so long for this thing to come out. And I think for the local news, there's a paper that actually shared it, but it didn't get the national attention that it has right now. And I think COVID was one of the culprits in getting people like not understanding or it getting out front, because COVID was taking the forefront of a lot of these news stories that were happening.
Yeah,
But there are records out there of this being addressed in a way that was like there was something wrong with this whole case to begin with. And so what I did was just some backtracking, and I went to one source. I ain't gonna lie, I went to the New York Times just kind of see because I was want to see the timeline, because I think that was the mystery behind me, like how did we get to this particular point where it took 2 months for this to come out. The other part was understand like why this guy was filming it in the first place,
yeah,
and was that a coordinated effort. And then I was looking to other different articles, and it was saying that no, it wasn't coordinated. It was, that this person didn't know this other person, but it just seems so like calculated, the way that the kid is running, there's somebody behind him, maybe at a safe distance, recording everything, but not putting the camera down to kind of see this atrocity happen and kind of even be there to stop it. But at the same time, I'm glad we're fortunate that he did tape the whole thing, video the whole thing, and so we can actually see what went on. So knowing that the original story was something different than what actually happened, but also getting a little bit more information about about the young man,
yeah,
Ahmaud Arbery, was kind of like showing the whole picture, but also doing some research on what citizens arrest means and why certain things are different, and how that's coupled with the open carry law, and how some of these laws that are in place may not be so connected to what's going on now. Things that were being done back in the Civil War era.
hmm
The word on the street, and it seems like to me the word on the street in Georgia is we need to get rid of some of these laws because they don't have any relevance to what's happening now. If anything is relevant, that is still causing more people harm than it is good. Because the thing was, like, if you didn't have a lot of police around, at least you had something. I think it says storekeepers and or shopkeepers and some other folk where it was really designed for them because of the danger that they had to be in regards to the stores. But the things that's happening now was almost like only trained people should be able to do a citizen's arrest. Only people, and
right.
it is,
Because
it is, it is
this came up.
interesting. The ones who were, but the main person who's in question is a retired cop.
Very interesting.
So I was like, oh, okay. When you start doing the fact checking, it's like, oh, I'm starting to put some things together. It's a great conversation. So let me kind of go through what I found. So pardon me looking down right now, but I'm just reading some things I got from the New York Times article on May 13th. On February 23rd, Ahmaud Arbery was shot dead And shout out to his family. Shot dead in Satilla Shores, which is not too far. It's an area of Brunswick, Georgia. 10 minutes from Brunswick, Georgia. Gregory and Travis McMichael were the ones who were now, at one point, they weren't in jail, but now they've been arrested and now in jail. So father-son collaboration on this. Grabbed two guns and followed in a truck after Ahmaud was running down the street. Looked like a suspect, it said, in a string of break-ins. Just one burglary, actually, only one burglary happened, which was a truck outside of, I think, Michael's house that a handgun was taking out of an unlocked car. And that was outside Travis McMichael's house. On February 27th, first prosecutor recuses herself, Jackie Johnson, Brunswick District Attorney's Office, and Glenn County Police Department. They conducted the initial investigation, and it's interesting that I think Jackie had retired at some point. Sometime in April, paper publishes details of the police investigation. Georgia citizens' arrest and self-defense law was in question. George E. Barnhill was the second prosecutor, or DA, said it was insufficient cause to arrest based off whatever facts that were there. Let's see. And the next step was Aubrey's family, under pressure of Aubrey's family, Mr. Barnhill then recused himself from the case. His son had worked for the Brunswick prosecutor's office, Gregory McMichael. And then the family requested to have find another district attorney. The next district attorney in April 13th was DA Tom, I think Dunbar, Darden, something like that.
It's been a roller coaster of different people.
Playing.
It's a fast moving train of a case right now in terms of, and by the time this airs, people, they'll have more will have happened.
Right.
I'm sure, but this issue about the citizen's arrest is critical because it's almost like the stand your ground of this sort of, what's the execution of it,
right?
Of the attempt to really just, I guess, explain away.
Yeah.
And stand your ground doesn't apply because this is there was no
Georgia.
property involved. Georgia has a lot of laws that are very clear on these. I know some of us, we've seen this on the news and CNN and stuff.
So what I found with the citizens law, citizens arrest law was it dated back as far as the Civil War, back to 1863. And it states a private person may arrest someone if a crime is committed in his presence or within quotes within his immediate knowledge. And then it says something about a felony aspect. So this is what we're talking about with as it relates to citizens arresting people on a felony. If it's a felony, the citizen can stop someone from escaping if the citizen has a, once again in quotes, reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. Now read a little bit further in one of these other articles. And I'll make sure I'll jot the article in the credits.
Oh yeah.
This was on the grounds of a misdemeanor. What Ahmaud was doing was inside someone's house the house was being constructed, and I think Ahmaud went in several times, and it was on camera. And what he could have been arrested for was a misdemeanor, like on trespassing or unlawful presence or something like that, right, or loitering, and it's not a felony. So for this particular case, these individuals, the McMichael family, it was not their authority to stop him with any type of deadly force or any type of force with guns because of the fact that it was not a felony.
Oh yeah, clearly. I mean, we know.
Right.
We know. Listen, the thing is, you try. You are innocent until proven guilty. That involves everybody.
Right.
And everyone's entitled to a defense. And And so as the case gets picked apart and the details get looked at, it just sort of, one can kind of take these ideas seriously or realize, really more like what we all saw and witnessed on that video.
Right.
Just the savagery in terms of how that was dealt out. And so now it becomes a matter for lawyers to explain, these are all the different defenses and so forth. And it is interesting. But yeah, debunking just in case.
Yeah. And I think what they try to do, as far as the debunking, was trying to bring in something that happened before with him. Like they tried to bring up his mental health. Yeah, and the fact that he had a couple infractions from the past. I think he had said something about him bringing a gun to a basketball game, or he did some other thing that was kind of, I think he had stole something from I don't know, somebody's store or whatever. And the thing was, is that information relevant to the fact that he got shot down for a misdemeanor? He got shot down for being accused or fitting the description of someone who was burglarizing the neighborhood. And the burglarizing was only one burglar thing that was reported in January. That was it. So it wasn't like a string of like different burglaries. It was just one thing that, how do you know who took your gun or not? So it's just like, it must be fit the description.
Yeah.
And but I think that thing that made me want to make sure we pause for next week to this week,
right?
Doc, was just the image, and I'm glad you brought that up. The image of him struggling with the gun, knowing that this could be a whole different outcome once you engage in fighting for your life. And it was two people that had guns, and they tried to paint a picture of, in the news and some other places, that of him being the aggressor. I'm like, how are you an aggressor if you don't have any weapons? You have jogging shorts on and jogging sneakers and a t-shirt.
Yet we've seen this so many times throughout history.
Yeah.
It's really standard operating. Well, let's just say it's out of the playbook.
Yeah.
And so of course, as people get lawyered up, and as they should, I suppose, it's their right to do so.
Yeah.
We're getting already now, and this becomes the problem. We're getting a lot of legal arguments that are already being made. It's very interesting. I found very interesting the person who filmed this. That man is really saying almost this was done to bring justice, and maybe that was the end result, because if there was no video, I suppose people would not have seen it. But was that his intention at the time when he was filming it, is my question.
Yeah, what's interesting? They say this a lawyer actually leaked it. Like, they had a video. The lawyer Alan Tucker said in the interview on Friday he had leaked the video to dispel rumors that he said had fueled tension in the community. So there was something brewing on the same things probably that we're talking about, but not on a national level. It was like that mom and pop store. It was brothers on the corner, sisters on the corner, people in churches right before that COVID really hit. And I think it thought that people thought that this wasn't going to be talked about, but once things got kind of like a little bit more clear about how we're moving as a COVID, pop right back up to the front.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll be coming back to talking about that, and of course, as we were saying, as you were saying, earlier, there's all these other cases. This is not to bring up, but we're saying don't forget about Sean Reed. I still haven't heard all the facts there, but this was the case where his phone essentially recorded Facebook Live as he was being, and that was another blow that kind of came, which it feels like, again, that summer of 2014, summer of 2015, of 2013, and of course Trayvon 2012. it's just it's become a rolling thunder and a familiar, all too unfortunately familiar feeling in the last several years. Add to it our current pandemic moment, even though things are getting better and things are the numbers of flattening the curve is happening, at least here in New York and other places, for the moment and now, which is such a major accomplishment. But add with all these things happening, we're looking at a whole new movement and a whole new kind of way of having to move.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
As they say that we have to move differently.
And I'm thinking just go back like in that whole movement, like knowing that you are possibly 5 minutes away from having a really bad day in regards to like being either locked up or not having any more days because you might feel as if your life is going to be ending right now. The fact that he would have the I don't know, the forethought to make sure he recorded everything because he didn't know what was going to happen, you know, and to really see something different as it relates to what people are talking about. We're all in this together because of COVID, but to know a little better as a person of color that not everybody's on that same wavelength or that same idea, because this stuff runs deeper than the virus, and it runs deeper like a virus, and where you can't see it but you can feel it. It's all around you, and this the callousness that these police officers had in addressing this young man's arrest and death, you know, it's just like I don't know, man. It's just it makes you pause in a different way. And like I said, being that I'm married, I don't have kids yet, but I'm just thinking as I start to have a family and I have nieces and nephews, I'm thinking about what kind of world are they living in right now, and what kind of world am I preparing my future kids for, you know? So
yeah, man, no, I appreciate it. It needs to be said, because sometimes we think, well, we don't need to say these things, but it does need to be said. What it feels like, you know, as you say, that death could be 5 minutes away, that arrest could be 5 minutes away, really, for the crime of the color of one's skin is really what it comes down to. Okay, I mean, that's the crime right there, and that's really the whole point. You're jogging through this neighborhood. In our minds, you don't have the right to do that, and what it may feel like for folks who may not know as much, to feel hunted, you know, because that's what I think that's why that video evokes such a strong response. It's a cornering and a hunting live on.
We talked about this the other day too. Like,
it reckons with another era, and it just we're familiar with it in books. We've read about it. We heard the stories. We honored the stories intergenerationally. And those of us who lived in a world yet to be born, a world that was, you know, where opportunity reigned and the dream happened. That's the world we grew up in. But here we are now confronted with some of those same imagery, and it's haunting, shocking.
Yeah, and I think the lack of mobilization because of the social distancing is kind of I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing right now. I think it, like, once again, it has people sitting back a little bit like, all right, I can't go out there and march in mass like I normally would, but what can I do strategically to make sure people understand a little bit more about the severity of what just happened and what's been happening? And also just to kind of add on to the you talk about the anniversaries of certain things. This is almost 21 years of Amadou Diallo in the Bronx. The Netflix just had something on. They have something on now about how the media kind of shapes some of the outcomes of some of these cases. But they talked about Amadou Diallo in 1999 being shot down or being shot at 41 times by police officers. And the main thing they talked about was the fear factor.
Talk about that a little bit. Talk about what's
Yeah.
yeah. I never forget Yusef. That's a
Yusef, man. Oh my gosh, man. Like how many situations happen where there's this fear that is enveloped in, and I think it comes hand in hand with racism. I forgot where I saw this, also in my reading, but it's this fear of I think the animalistic thing that you're talking about. Like there's this uh, either subhuman or superhuman or beyond human type of thing that people place upon men of color. And I remember Dr. Joy DeGruy was actually talking on one of her former videos, who wrote Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, talking about how certain officers are trained. And I forgot what police department she was talking about, but I think it was somewhere out west. And just said there is a danger level based off of height, skin tone, like the darker you are, the dangerous you are,
right.
Girth, short hair, long hair. Yeah, and it was like this different degrees of, if you see this particular combination or intersectionality, as we talk about identities and things like that, this person comes off as the criminal, as the most dangerous person at that time. So right. There are certain tactics you use to take this person out or down. And it was really about her helping them to understand a little bit deeper around how those biases and those misperceptions lead to a lot of young people's deaths, arrests, populations in jails increasing because of that fear factor that is placed in. And then you see this being manifested through the different behaviors and actions because of these assumptions that are made that this person is dangerous. My behavior is going to reflect that and how I react as opposed to respond.
Right. Right. In the implicit bias, the science of that, the social science of that, looking is what I think. The fear factor. It's as old as the scriptures. It's as old as America itself.
Yeah.
And I have to, it all comes down to that. I always save that for the end of the semester. I don't say it too much, but all the evidence and all the stuff we learn points to that fact. Once you have been able to equate blackness with criminality, blackness with, supposedly negative traits and these kinds of things, it goes back to really just the mark of blackness in our society and what it has been twisted to mean over really 400 years or so, including racial slavery and all that history that goes along with that.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing a resurgence of those kinds of methods, modes, laws. Let's face it, we're seeing a resurgence in almost verbatim of things from the old days. I've said this in other places, so I know I could say it here.
Right.
It's really just using, the old playbook. Hey, let's try it again. And it's been surprisingly, unfortunately, far too effective.
Yeah.
And so we have to organize. We have to, and that's part of the part of this is just knowing the information first. Right. Thank you for for that clear. Knowing the information first helps because they'll throw everything into this case. There's so much to say about it. I know we're going to be talking about it more, so we'll try to move on to other topics and just.
But I think that mobilizing piece is definitely key. We talked about before that there's this jogging initiative of 2.23 miles to recognize that's the day that he was murdered. But right. In the same way, is this practice for us to mobilize further down the road? All right, we got together to do something that symbolizes and to recognize that we stand in solidarity with his family and with those who loved him. But systematically, I wonder what's going to happen with the prosecutor who's in there now, and then for those who are out there in the street still, how do you make sure you talk to your local legislators? How do you talk to people within law? How do you help dispel? How do you change or modify something like citizens arrest in Georgia, knowing that it doesn't have its place right now, even though it's like it got revamped 10 years ago, but who's it benefiting and who's not benefiting from it, and that's really something to look into. So I think just to make sure we talk about the moving forward piece, I think we need to place that in there. But your whole point about mobilizing, I think we really got to make sure if anything gets recorded in this podcast, it's like there's some action that needs to be taken.
Action steps, yeah. Some of the organizations that you had mentioned earlier, your local Urban League chapter, it's time to join up again, y'all, and they need the memberships, and we need our memberships.
Definitely.
Why not renew your membership with the NAACP,
yes.
The Brookhaven branch and other branches all across Long Island? Why not relook at our memberships? And I think that information has always been around, but that's one thing that anyone can do right away. You can do it now. You can do it online.
Right.
So we'll have links with that too.
Yeah, man. So all right. So
well, let me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying moving on to a new topic, and now thank you for just the dialogue, and then we able to kind of encapsulate some of those thoughts and feelings, and but also being able to just put this on there and share with other people, see what kind of thing it evokes with them. So so let's switch gears, and I know you have some topics related to the Black church, which once again is another place that people need to mobilize and get their strength, not just physically, but also from a spiritual perspective. So I know you have done some research on some things, and I know you wanted to drop some science and some knowledge on folks. So what things have you found in your travels?
Well, I'm going to be unlike the church, and I'm going to teach, I'm not going to go too. No. But this is a church topic, so it may go longer than it will go as long as it needs to.
So I ain't gonna keep you here long today. Yeah, all right, brother.
When someone tells you, I'm not gonna be before you long, people start to look at their watch like, oh man, this guy's gonna be on for a while. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, I found something that was interesting that was, a spark of hope, and people who've been following this have heard about this. Just to give my sort of Brooklyn report, Governor Cuomo had announced that he's, was going to be opening coronavirus test sites at churches, and then specifically in the Bedford-Stuyvesant area of Brooklyn. And so I only have, few facts just to share about this, but I find this incredibly interesting. And so the state is actually has agreed to open 24 temporary COVID-19 test sites in an effort to expand testing for low-income communities of color. We talked about this last time, the fact that the testing sites were sparse, few and far between, hard to reach, hard to get to, often packed or backed up. And so this was a notion that seems to be a good one, that seems to be something that has increased, 24-fold here, the number of testing sites in critical neighborhoods. Maybe it's not on your block, but it's a few blocks it's around, and that helps quite a bit. Now this is a new idea, but it's something that's being brought, and this will start as soon as Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
We'll open next Tuesday in New York City churches, including Bethany Baptist Church in Bed-Stuy, and so that's one of them that one of these houses of worship that has been successful in getting or has been selected or asked to do this. So it comes out also, I have just a few more. It comes out of Representative Hakeem Jeffries' support. He has been from what I understand, was adamant that churches get some support and that institutions get some support, and moreover that testing happened in the district. So that's really sort of a real victory. He, of course, he's from Bed-Stuy originally,
Right.
Congressman Jeffries, and so he was saying, you know, there's a chance now to really address the COVID-19 pandemic with these houses of worship and religious leaders who have the credibility, the authenticity, and the capacity to reach those in the community who need to be tested. Right. And it makes sense if you think about it, because churches are there, they're anchored in the community, they know the community, maybe some better than others. Right. And so it's a chance to, I think, and we had talked about this, you know, bringing the medical care, even if it's coming later than it should have, this is a way to deliver that and get that to people who need to be tested immediately on all the different levels of testing.
I think that's amazing. And when the politicians get involved, and I think Hakeem Jeffries' name's been really, you know, really held in a really positive light, as, you know, as far as a community leader and really being there for the people, but to really connect the dots with legislators, religious leaders, and making sure health is at the forefront of what we're looking at. Like, yeah, we can. I think spirituality is always going to be there, but to meld that with making sure that the same way you attend church, those church meetings, you need to be making sure you attend these workshops or attend these opportunities to make sure you get well. Yeah. And yeah.
And so, you know, along with that goes, you know, all the things involved, getting the church ready, disinfecting, along the lines of CDC and all this other stuff. And so that also becomes an interesting thing as that industry grows in terms of, you know, I know, you know, Cintas and some of the major players, and then you have a lot of local players who are, you know, who are getting involved in that. Cintas does good work. I also had here that, so it also says that 20 of the 21 zip codes with the highest coronavirus hospitalization rates have greater than average African American or Latino populations. That comes as no surprise, certainly looking at what we've been seeing. And finally, just kind of people were comparing this to disasters like Hurricane Katrina and the Flint water crisis. You know, where again, once again, communities of color, Black and brown specifically, this piece, this comes from patch.com, I'll share this.
Yeah.
This piece, you know, saying again, we see over and over again, these issues that may seem universal, that are environmental issues, they're issues of pre-existing condition, and it's pre-existing condition in this case on a mass scale, on a community scale. The community is finding itself in just as much of a racial pandemic as much as a actual one. It's difficult.
But I think something you said last time we had our podcast about you got to turn the water back on, or you got to make sure. It seems as if these things that are necessities or things that come natural for other communities, this is something that I'm not sure why it's such a hard thing to understand for our communities of color in regards to the things that should be essential and should be like normal. And the fact that you have to tell somebody to turn the water on. You have to help somebody understand that, you know, if there's a health crisis, why are we looking at the wealthy first? Why are we looking at these affluent communities first? If you know, for I don't know how long we've been in this country, that we tend to get the short end of the stick. Now, this is more for our politicians. Why are you not pushing to make sure that these resources get to this particular population first? And I think even my wife was saying that, you know, there's this thing called social determinants of health. That is where you eat, work, play, live, all these different things. And you can tell the expectancy of someone's life just based off their zip code.
Right.
Man, it's like, wow. Like, and then how does that relate to the real estate kind of situation where people not, oh, was it cold as that? Oh, not going up in there, you know, and then you still have this historical legacy of all these crazy adverse kind of living conditions based on the fact that nothing changes because that's how it's been based off of either certain codes, certain unwritten things like we're talking about. But I guess how can Black churches help with the changing of that narrative?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll find out. Here's a case where you have the possibility of a program that really can get to that need, and it makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. But to your point, you know, it's almost like a new kind of redlining, almost another. And it makes sense that since we're seeing 19th century phenomenon, we're seeing what we're calling modern day lynching so calmly and so reasoned, you know. But after a while, it's like, you know, it makes you want to holler, as somebody once said. So, you know, it's we're keeping a close eye on this, and that's the thing, you know. No matter what we talk about today, Ahmaud Arbery's, you know, part of the thread through all of it, because just again, you know, all of these things, fear factor, the fear that many people in the communities that we're talking about have been feeling. You know, they can't get tested. So here's an effort that also brings some investment into the community right now, and we'll see. I'll have more to report on that one next time.
yeah, definitely.
You know, but that's where it is right now. So. Yeah.
So I think that's a good segue as we kind of like wrap things up a little bit, because I know next week we have our Trusted Voices of the Community conversation, which will be our YouTube channel, Trusted Voices of the Community. And also, if you want to find out more about us, we have a YouTube channel that we'll talk about at the end as well. But to really talk about the sustainability or the health conditions in our communities of color as it relates to COVID, and how this kind of shines a light on not just COVID itself, but on, like I said, the historical legacy, but also the current condition where we are, but how do we move out of that situation? So we have Dr. Gregson Pickett, who is a commissioner of health at Suffolk County, and also Dr. Alexia Gaffney Adams, who's an infectious disease doctor at Stony Brook Medical Center, and it's being moderated by a special person that I see every night. My wife, who's a coordinator at the Office of Minority Health in Suffolk County, Adespo Watson. So to really have this in-depth conversation about health disparities, where we are with this, but also where we're moving toward that, and a lot of things that she does and Dr. Pickett does is work with Black churches. So I think after that conversation, I think it's something we could definitely kind of go a little deeper into as we talk about the power of the Black churches to not just mobilize, but also help shape the health of the community. You know.
Yeah. It as we talk about going back into our own playbooks, right. As you mentioned earlier in the show, you know, the church. You know, is it okay to admit that the church was a major organizing site for previous movements that were effective, that pushed back on injustice, that found ways? We have a playbook as well.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. And that's something that's very important for us to realize, as you know, as if we're dealing with older forms of oppression, you know, voter suppression. Okay, they've just gone right back into the old playbook. We have to start thinking in that way, and so that's where our Africana studies, where our, you know, what's on our reading list, what's on, you know, in terms of our syllabi, and in terms of, you know, just whether it's in the classroom or it's outside of the classroom, you know, comes into play because we have a lot of us spent a lot of time learning about the movement, revering the movement, and uplifting the movement so on such a high level that we felt like maybe it was almost inaccessible to us at times.
Yeah.
But now we need it.
Yeah.
We need that playbook, and it's just time to grab it and study it.
Yeah, man. So let's use this as a place to kind of help lay out those chapters, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Chapter 1, like, be woke, be aware.
Yeah.
Do your homework. Chapter 2, just keep going down. But yeah, I think we are that new generation. We are those that came before us. We are the ones standing on the shoulders of giants. And now, as educators, we're preparing those individuals to stand on our shoulders. So
that's right.
It is imperative and our obligation and obligatory to make sure that we do these things on a regular basis. And maybe we need to have some of our young people on here to have these conversations as well, what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's right. And, speaking of younger people too, today we had our, did a recording for our graduates from Africana Studies, 2020,
yeah,
and all that stuff. And, just to send them a message of positivity. And, but anyway, shout out to the class of 2020 from Stony Brook and all universities. This has been a year, a semester like no other, and a time like no other for students. And so we just want to let you know we haven't forgot about you. We're thinking about you, and we're celebrating you in various forms. I'm sure both of us are already involved in various ways of just what I wanted to say here at home.
Right.
From us, from me, congratulations to the class of 2020.
Yeah, I think class of 2020, you will have the most unique story, I believe, in regards to like what it means to persevere, what it means to really get your stuff, so to speak, as your diploma. And we really take our hats off to you all for enduring and persevering and pushing through. And hopefully this is more of an inspiration than it is a letdown in regards to what you didn't get at the end, but to know that this is inspiring you more to really help shape this university, shape this country, shape this world, because we are looking to you to kind of like move that needle, so to speak. So don't think that everything that you have experienced has been in vain. It's only been done to make you that much more sharper, stronger, and that much more hungrier to do what you were purposed to do. So we applaud you, we salute you, and we expect and anticipate great things to happen in your lives. So please know that you will be forever an alum, and you will be something special in our hearts. And please, you made it, realize that, but now you got some other things you got to take care of. So listen, please continue to flourish and take this opportunity to find out what your purpose is and really excel. So we're out of here.
Yeah. Stay safe, everyone, and no, be safe.
Yes, that's it.
Be safe.
Once again, this is Rejected Stone Productions, and this is a show that we have real talk about real issues in real time. And thank you to my partner, Dr. Zebulon Maletsky.
Twende.